Namaste, good evening, and welcome to this enriching LinkedIn audio event. We have people joining in. We have 15 people who tuned in before time. So thank you so much. And where this is the LinkedIn audio event, guys, which we are doing, where we are set to delve into one of the most pertinent issues organizations grapple with today: the dilemma between nurturing in-house talent versus acquiring new talent. So today's topic is nurture versus acquire, the talent investment dilemma. This debate transcends industries and impacts decision makers at all levels, from HR professionals and team leaders to executive and entrepreneurs. In an era of rapid technological advancement, shifting skills requirements, and the ongoing battle for top talent, the dilemma of talent investment has never been more critical. So, throughout this audio show, we will explore the nuances of nurturing and acquiring talent, delving into the pros and cons of each approach. We will hear from our experts today, ladies and gentlemen. They are the industry leaders and HR professionals who have grappled with this challenge firsthand. So, first, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Ankit Tiwari. I am associated with the Star in Me. It's an entity committed to elevating organizational paradigms through leadership development, employee engagement, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and much more. Our mission is to empower organizations to create a harmonious and productive work environment. I will go ahead and introduce our two distinguished panelists. Today, we have made remarkable they have made a remarkable contribution in their respective fields. Firstly, we have Mr. Ravi Kumar, the Senior President and Chief People Officer at Page Industries Limited. His vast experience and people centric strategies have been instrumental in fostering a culture of growth and innovation at Page Industries and many more organizations he has worked with. With a career spanning various industries and a track record of remarkable achievements, our guest is seasoned Chief People Officer who has left an indelible mark on the realm of HR. So thank you so much, Ravi, for joining us today. And we wish that we learn from your expertise and experience on this audio event.
Thank you, Ankit, for having me on the show. And I must say, I'm no expert, I'm a practitioner. So, looking forward to a lot of learning also from Anshuman and yourself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have Mr. Anshuman Tiwari, the Global Head of Operational Excellence at DXC Technology. His adeptness in driving operational efficiency and his progressive outlook towards talent management have significantly propelled DXC Technology on a global platform. With an impressive track record of spanning over 25 years, our guest is not just a leader, but a visionary who has consistently delivered world class operational excellence to clients across multitude of industries. He's an ASQ fellow and a LinkedIn top voice, leveraging his knowledge and expertise to uplift others in their professional journeys. Thank you so much, Anshuman, for joining us today. And you were so kind to accept the invitation. And here you are.
Sure, thanks a lot, Ankit. First of all, where do you find all these things, man? So- one reason I can confess I joined these shows is because, the wonder. First of all, I get to call Mr. Tiwari for once, and then distinguished, and all these things. Doesn't happen every day. So thank you very much. We look forward to learn from Ravi and you, and of course, I look forward to the questions actually, because they are fascinating and give a window into how people think about various topics. So looking forward to this. And my apologies to some people in the room because this is my third show this week, audio event this week. So some of you may have heard me. I will try and keep my comments different from the previous two shows.
Oh, thank you so much. We are here to learn from you, and we are excited also. And
My pleasure.
I welcome to all the wonderful audience over here. We have Narendra, Rohit, Bhaskar, Soumya, Shikha, Preeti Gupta, Sanjit, Ria. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. Rohan is there, Sahil is there, and we will quickly go ahead and start the questionnaire. As Anshuman said, he is looking forward for the questions. Well, I would like to open. I would like to keep this conversation engaging, and I request my audience also to raise their hand if they have any questions in between. We will take up your questions after I am done with mine. So let's get started, everyone. Mr. Ravi, I will go ahead and ask the first question to you. My question to you would be: how has the culture of nurturing talent, including hiring, evolved over the years, and what impact has it had on the overall organizational growth?
Thank you, Ankit. That's a tall order. I think it's also a bit of history of how talent has evolved. So I think many years ago, and I think when Ankit was in college, those days, we would hire talent or buy talent, as I like to call it, and expect that talent comes in and does what they're supposed to do, and you leave it to them to run the organization, run the business, bring in profits, etc. From there, it moved over the years to equipping people with let's say capabilities and skills which help them become talent. And then again, it moved over the years to something called development. And we said, okay, we'll help. Everyone is a talent. We'll help develop talent within the organization. And I think now, Ankit, it's come to a stage where we can easily call it nurturing talent, right? So I identify my talent. I'm very clear about who they are, and also see if they have a good balance within the organization, a good balance of experience, a good balance of well-being as well, work-life balance, etc. And of course, the latest hot topic, mental health, etc. And ensure that uh, they have an all-rounded experience within the organization, and that's where we are today in terms of how talent has been looked at. So different strategies, different companies over the years. This is how it has panned out, and I think all these years, organizations have benefited from looking at talent, identifying them, and also, being clear about what to do with talent as well in terms of their own career, etc. And I think this has a direct impact on the way the organization has grown, or I could even link it to profits in many ways, business growth, etc. And I think having the right talent in the right place is what all of us have grappled with over the years. And I think if we have perfected this a little better today because of various tools in our hands, I think that's where it has actually impacted organizational growth. So I would say that having the right talent in the right place brings in the right value to the organization.
Wow. Right talent at the right place brings in the right value for the organization. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ravi. As you mentioned, equipping people, talent development, nurturing that talent which you have, and then obviously the main focus on mental health is something that I could see in your vision and the organization's vision. So thank you so much for this insightful answer. Well, moving on, Anshuman, I have a question for you.
Hmm.
I would like to know, how do you approach operational excellence? I mean, you are in, operational excellence, your global head, and while ensuring that your employees are satisfied and with their full engagement. So, how do you approach this?
So, Ankit, I think everybody likes to believe that their function is different, right? So, but I would like to say that, we are no different from most every other function. Maybe one or two small differences. So, I'll quickly highlight those and then maybe take your question. One, of course, our function tends to have a little bit more senior workforce because many of our project and program objectives or initiatives need a little bit more senior experts. So we generally don't tend to, in our function, tend to have junior or entry level or very early career professionals. So that need is different. Uh, you know, so that is one. Two, some of our people are a little academically oriented in the sense that they would like to be at conferences, write papers, and further the knowledge in their space, which is again slightly different from some maybe production or delivery or operations functions. So these two ways it is slightly different. Rest of it is actually similar to, I mean, everybody's human being. So any function, the need for appreciation, acknowledgement, understanding, care, and all those things, and of course progression, all those things are similar. The For me, since you highlighted the part global, I have people in 22 countries, and therefore some, you know there is a little bit challenge in making sure that the cultural nuances of uh, various regions are also kept in mind. Now, how we grow, how we keep engaged, I always believe that with people, it's extremely important to be with them in their time of need, when they need you the most, whether professionally and sometimes personally. Maybe it is a time of grief, loss, or something else, or even joy. But if you are with people in their time of need, they will reciprocate uh, with their heart and soul, and that is what every manager looks forward to, right? So you can only achieve so much by setting goals, by setting KPIs, by setting timelines. But if you want to get deeper into the hearts and souls of your people, and vice versa, and form that connect, however temporary that may be, everybody knows that, we will have a connect while the manager employee relationship is there. Once that relationship changes, the connect may or may not remain. But this is extremely important, that can you be with people in the time of their need, then they will be with you in the time of your need. So that would be my crisp answer, but I can elaborate any particular topic that you may have.
No, that's very excellent answer, Anshuman. Be with people in the time of their need. Actually, I also resonated I resonate with this completely, because I remember when I was working under my previous managers, the managers who were very close to me, who would take care of my mental health, my performance, and everything. I still remember them. I still connect with them. Right? So this
Yeah.
is how you connect with people and keep your relationship going, uh, no matter where you are
And
in.
Ankit, that is true in life, right? So I don't want to separate work as some esoteric, as elitist, different space. Work is part of life. In life also, you tend to gravitate toward people, and connect better with people who want to connect with you. There is some connection. They want to know how you are. They want to actually know how you are, and not just ask how are you. Look around yourself amongst your friends, family, relatives, extended relatives, and all those spaces. Who do you connect the most with? People who are genuinely interested in you, right? So the same translates at work as well. So in that sense, I don't see why it should be different, and in fact it is not. I mean, Ravi is more experienced in this space, but I have not seen in a reasonably long career too much difference.
Actually makes sense. And it's very true, Anshuman, and thank you so much for highlighting this point. And I would like my audience also to make note of it. Your colleagues, your manager, as Anshuman said, be with them when they are in need, and you help them, so they help you. So together we grow. Thank you, Anshuman, for the insightful answer. Moving on, Ravi, as you mentioned previously, that when you when you acquire talent, you also nurture and develop the in-house talent. So my question is the follow-up question to that only. So can you share any specific strategies employed to retain and develop existing talent in your organization? So what strategies you implement to retain and train your existing talent?
Thank you, Ankit. And I'll take a cue from what Anshuman said just now. Whether it's talent or whether it's, all of us here or, even within an organization, I think it's best to understand a lot about the person, a lot about the human being that's there in front of you, and not, group someone as talent, etc. It's good to understand the person. And Anshuman spoke about, when you are there, when the person needs you, the person also gives back, in many ways. And I would take it the same way. Do we understand what talent wants? Do we listen to, what they're trying to say? And by that, I mean it's great to have some feedback mechanisms, within the organization, which help you understand on a real-time basis, what's going on in the minds of, my people. And if that's something I can crack, then, it's great to put that in place and, ensure that we use that feedback as data to develop programs around our talent. So that's something I saw in some of my previous organizations, current as well. For example, you do a great place to work, survey, you get a whole lot of information. Um, do you sieve that information, bring it together, and say, okay, this is what my talent is thinking, this is what they need, and what can I do for them? Can I hyper personalize a career path for them? And I think this is a very normal strategy that most organizations do. Do I have a separate path? Do I have a fast track sometimes, and do I have a different track sometimes? Um, do I make that available to our talents? And do I ensure that they are handheld while they are on those very specific paths? So I would say uh, not just the feedback, but also ensuring that we understand what happens in and goes on in the minds of talent. Where do they want to go? And then designing our own strategy around that and creating paths which will help them grow in their careers as well. I think that is actually a great strategy to have. I've seen this in many organizations. Some have been successful and some haven't. And I'll also take us all back to the 3E model, So it's great to have the education, exposure, and experience model available within the organization to talents, and especially customizing it only for our talents, I think will really bring a lot of value, to their careers, to their ways of working, and also in terms of how they contribute back to the organization as well. So I think it's also a little bit about connecting talent to value in many ways. Back to you, Ankit.
Yeah. Thank you, Ravi. But just wanted to know, as you said, you have a feedback mechanism. You understand what is required and what's going on in the mind of your, employees or the talent, and finding the need. Then you help them. So,
Right.
how exactly does this work? So, we do organizations have a proper, I would say, a study or a skill enhancement program that they, make their employees
Yeah.
to go through.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, Ankit, organizations, and I worked in one before this one, and we had a sort of a skills inventory, a very clear laid down document which talks about each role and what are the skills required for that. Also, some generic skills which are spread all across, and as a result of that, some very clear career paths as well. Putting down a career path and saying that this is what you can follow, or personalize your own career path and put it down. I think if you have these specific tools available to people in the organization, I think it helps a lot. It all starts with a a development plan, an individual development plan that people love to put together, and then work this out in terms of the skills repository as well as the career path. I think combine these two, and I think then you're well on your way to helping talent move forward.
Wow. Thank you, Ravi. Actually, we are also aiming, to amplify the potential of human talent at every organization, at every workplace. So
Right.
these points were very beautifully, put, and I have taken note of it. So thank you so much, Ravi, for this answer. Moving on, Anshuman, I have one question. Like when we were, discussing
Mhm.
before going live this event. So I have worked for one of our client, and actually I did help them for hiring new talent. Right?
Hmm.
I just wanted to understand from you that can you elucidate on some innovative strategies employed for talent acquisition and development, especially on acquisition? What are the strategies that one company or can they can employ for better and better talent acquisition?
So I mean, I'm not that qualified to answer this in a holistic way, Ankit. But in our space, in my space, which is operational excellence and related topics, or you can say, any function which needs a little bit more experience and slightly mid and senior level employees, there I have found that the role of referrals is very very important. Because people tend to know people who are doing good in their space and who have the right skill set and the temperament, which is like knowledge, skill, attitude, in the KSA, in taxonomy or other methods as well. And I call it will, skill, and dil. So I look at the will, skill, and dil parameter quite a lot, but the primary funnel for me is referrals, because I'm not hiring in thousands, right? So for my kind of roles, or my kind of teams, I'm, very few roles here and there will come up every now and then. So I am looking for referrals from amongst networks that people will have. And the way I look at it, and I've said this earlier, but I'll repeat it for you: will, skill, and dil. So, there should be some will to do. And this is a difficult job in the sense that, this is a self driven kind of a team. There will be no monitoring, no supervision. So, you have to be your own manager in that sense. So that will has to be there, the desire, motivation has to be there. The skill, of course, is extremely important, that if you don't have the skill set, then obviously having will is not enough. Only motivation से घर नहीं चलता है या काम नहीं होता है ना. So you need some skill as well. And lastly, you need some dill, because this is the heart to face challenges and you know downturns or difficulties in your career. And not only in career, work as well, there will be so many challenges, many plans will come untrue. Do you have the heart to take a no and move on and try again, or things like that? That emotional quotient, which many people will call. um, so yeah, so I look at these things. Referral is one, I would say, very important aspect for our kind of roles. And of course, having a large network now with LinkedIn kind of options available, I think that problem is quite solved. Last few roles I have hired, I have updated LinkedIn and said that I am looking for something like this. I get quite a few inquiries, or expression of interest. And I get a funnel. Obviously, I don't hire based on LinkedIn network alone. That would be stupid. But at least it gives me a funnel. So referrals, LinkedIn network, extended networks, and then eventually looking at will, skill, and dill is two things that I would strongly uh, recommend. Back to you, Ankit.
Thank you, Anshuman. Will, the lens skill. I always, I mean, I've been following your content. I've been following what you do on LinkedIn from quite long time. And to be very honest, that's what I like about you. That you go out of the way and explain things and tell people how things work. So that's, I think, this one quality and skill which makes you expert in not only handling people but in the operational excellence model as well. So thank you, Anshuman. And
Thanks. Thanks.
I've noted down this point. I really loved it, and I would like to highlight this for my audience also. That you should have heart to take no and move forward. So that's
And in our kind of, just to, sorry, interrupting you, Ankit,
yeah,
but in our kind of roles, and I did mention that I don't mean to say only operational excellence. Any role, any function that needs a little bit of a mid senior, experience profile, by design the job is tough, right? So if it was easy, anybody could have done it, right? So by design it is tough, it is complicated, therefore entry level people are not hired, because it is slightly complicated, there are nuances. So when there will be all this complication, nuances and all, sometimes things will not work out, and actually many times they will not work out. So you have to be able to take it, and then either course correct or modify, or give up and move on. All those things are there. Some people I meet are so wedded with their thought process, and of course till some extent it is good, because that is called perseverance. But perseverance beyond a point is called stupidity. So um, so that's the reason why I was stressing on this point, and I just thought, let me explain it in the context of my world. And maybe it is different in, let's say, operations, where obviously there are it is more hierarchical. There are multiple layers, there will be entry level, there will be mid. So the nuances of a operations or a sales structure are different from some of these kind of functions.
right. Totally, totally. I'm loving it. I mean, learning from you and Ravi is something, and getting those answers is
Yeah, Kit.
yes.
There's a question for Anshuman. Anshuman, have you patented this will, skill, and dill thing, or can we use it without paying you?
You can use it with credit, but no, but coming from somebody like you, I would take it. Yeah, I've been using it for a while.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So
So it's very nicely
peop-
put, I must say. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Anshuman. Ravi, I have one question for you, and after
Sure.
this, we will open the floor for the audience as well. So,
Right.
just to remind the audience, if you have any question, please raise your hand, and after this, I will allow you to speak and ask questions from our panelists. Well, Ravi, the question to you is: how do you balance the equation between nurturing existing talent and acquiring new expertise? So, how does this work?
Right. In fact, I want to just go back to what Anshuman said again. So, if you have a will, skill, and will, then you can get existing talent as well as acquire new talent from outside. But jokes apart, I think it's got to do with a lot about how the business is set up, right? So, I'd love to have a good balance of talent that I bring from outside because that's fresh blood, that's fresh thinking, and also a lot of internal talent that we grow from within. So I think it's a good balance to have. If we can afford to have a 50-50, I think that's wonderful, but very difficult to achieve. It also brings in a lot of diversity, different people coming from different experiences coming together, and that really helps the organization grow quite a bit and maybe grow much faster than normal. Um those who have succeeded have actually done this very well. So I think a good balance is very important, like you rightly said. How does one do that? Well, I think one has to be cognizant about certain roles that you'll probably set them aside and say that we need to bring fresh blood from outside for these roles. The rest can come from internal. Or you play it differently and say that I have skills for these roles available internally, so I'll fill these internally first, and then the rest of the roles which I need exceptional talent which probably is not available to me right now, and skills which are not available to me right now, will be brought in from outside. So I think a good balance, even if it's a 80-20, 80 tending towards internal talent, which I can grow and bet on from within, and a 20%, let's say, from outside, while keeping aside some roles for such situations. I think if this can be done, Ankit, I think this is wonderful. Many of us try this in different organizations, and I think it changes from time to time. Also depends on where the business is today, and can I afford to wait for talent to come from outside, or do I develop from within? It again depends on the stage of the business where I'm. If I'm a startup, I'd probably have a very large number of roles which are filled from external. If I'm a more mature organization and I've put in place a lot of development strategies within, then I probably have a very large number of internal talent who's available to me. So that's the way I would balance it.
Okay, okay. As you said, I mean, 80% is from the inside and 20% outside, and it also
Ideally,
the
ideally,
state of the organization.
right.
Right. So, when it comes to nurturing your talent within the organization, right? So, what kind of skill courses or what kind of skill enhancement? So, do you impart leadership skills in your employees? How does this work?
Yeah, right. So I think each employee is different, and I think it's great if employees create their own playlist in terms of their skills as well as the roles that they want to do in the future. So both skills as well as career paths. And I think as an organization, we love to look at development plans, and based on development plans, then we move forward with skilling people or even adding more capabilities. So I think when it comes to current talent which has been there with you for a long time, you have the ability to focus on them and spend time with them because they're there with you for long term. Uh, it's a little easier to look at slightly different roles and different capabilities that one can add. And I think you can be very specific about it, saying, talent number one needs this, but talent number two does not need this. Talent number two needs something else because it's a very divergent career path. When it comes to external talent, I think it's a shorter time frame. You're probably looking for talent which already has those capabilities, has already done a few experiences which will be useful for you. Once you bring them in, I think their development is looked at slightly differently. So this is the way we would do it. But again, like I keep saying, it all depends on where the person wants to go in terms of their career, what do they want to do in alignment with what the organization is focused on in terms of business. So I think a combination of both is best, I think.
Right. Right. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much. Well, as you said, it depends on the talent, where they want to go, how they want to grow in their career, and what skills they want to acquire. So I believe a lot of people who are listening in, we all have some aspirations in our career, right? We want to grow and we want to uh, excel in our career. So I would encourage people who are tuned in to listen to this audio show, and we have two wonderful people guests on the show. And I request all of you, if you have any questions, like in terms of acquiring new skills, how you can move ahead in your career, get promotion, and get life going, so please raise your hand and ask your question. I have opened the floor for everyone to put in their questions for our guest today. Okay. All right. Coach Ram is here.
Hi, thanks, Ankit. I hope I'm audible. Hello.
Yes, Ram. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Hi, Ravi. Hi, Anshuman.
Hi, man.
Great to speak to you.
Hi, Ram.
I, two questions. Maybe each one can pick one. Uh, one, when it comes to assessing potential, which becomes a better off of nature versus nurture. When it comes to assessing potential, sometimes it can become a bit subjective in terms of manager's perception, etc. So, how do you objectify the process of identifying who is a potential and who is not a talent? So, that's one. And number two, when you look at potential, do you always look at it against a particular role, or do you look at it absolutely? So that maybe for that role, the skill set may not match, etc., etc. Maybe there is better suited for a different role. So these are the two questions.
Great. Thank you, Ram. I think you are in some kind of a party because there's a lot of background noise. So I hope you're enjoying yourself. Um,
Yeah.
all right. So I'll try and take the first one if you don't mind. I think the question is more about how do you identify talent, and how would you do it objectively or scientifically? I think, Ram, it's not an easy one. There are different ways of doing it, but I would always recommend that we have some scientific tools which help us identify talent. Of course, initially you don't use a tool. It's always a manager who is able to spot talent, or you could have talent scouts within the HR function who help you understand where the talent is. You can then again have a skill will matrix like Anshuman mentioned, plot people on that as well if you'd like to do that, and then come to a stage where you sort of assess talent in terms of scientific tools. It could either be a test, it could be a psychometric, it could also be a development center, an assessment center, and that gives you a whole lot of scientific data on which one can base the decision on whether the person enters your talent list or not. So different ways of doing it, Ram. But I would always recommend a combination of what the employee and the manager and the talent scout think, in addition to having scientific tools and assessments to help identify talent. I hope that helps answer the question.
Yeah. Thank you. I think multiple sources sort of objectify. Things.
Right.
So I don't know, Ravi. You know, with your permission, maybe I'll want to add a little bit on this because
Sure,
I've
sure.
been in the same space, though not as a professional HR person, but I certainly would say that this desire to make this assessment, potential assessment process very objective is a little self-defeating. uh, Assessment of potential will and should have some reasonable element of subjectivity, because eventually there will be people who will understand uh, the the requirements of an organization, of an ecosystem, of the industry, which can be different. There can be people who will do very well in certain industries or companies, and the same person in another setup could be complete disaster. So, and that sometimes these models will not be able to capture. So the leader or the group of leaders who are looking at the next generation or potential candidates must allow themselves to remain a little subjective. I don't mind that completely. Of course, it should not go to the extent that I like this person and I don't like the other person. That is not my suggestion, but there should be some scope for leaving it subjective, partly. Then, of course, adding to what Ravi said, I would also add. Recently, I was speaking to Shubhro Mitra, another expert in this space. He suggested the growth mindset. The 5 parameters of growth mindset as another potential assessment exercise. Again, that would need some conversation on each person. So, if we were in a room assessing 10 different candidates, we would go through the broad, I would say, parameters of a growth mindset and see. Now, growth mindset is very much required in organization, in some organization, in most organizations, let me put it. But there may be some organizations which are very compliance driven, and I may not want many creative people in that compliance driven organization. I may want somebody who can come to the office and do the same thing every day for week after week, month after month, year after year. So I may need a little less creative approach, and a person who may not challenge the status quo, may not challenge the rules and regulations too much. And that will be a skill, or that will be a winning skill in that setup, but in another setup it will be a very defeatist or a limiting skill. So those are a couple of points I thought, Ram, I can add to this, that context plays a factor, and is an important factor, and some level of subjectivity should be allowed. Otherwise, you know it becomes too much of a scientific exercise and may not serve its purpose.
Yeah, sure. I think culture context is critical. High flyer star performer in one context may not
Yeah,
perform the same way in another context. So yes, beyond the objective assessment data, context can sort of make it a more robust assessment of the situation.
sure. Thanks, Ram, for the question.
Thank you, Ram, for joining and asking your question. It was really your question actually brought you know it brought light to this discussion, and the answers were given very beautifully. And thank you so much for your time today. We'll move.
Thanks,
Thank,
Ankit. Thanks for hosting.
thank you. Well, Bhaskar is here. He wants to ask question. Bhaskar, you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, yes, Bhaskar, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, Ravi. Good evening, Anshuman and Ankit and everyone. So I was just wondering that, in some cases, what happens, the organization, the people doesn't want to, leave the organization. So they keep on, so they stay on, which is definitely a good sign. And also by design, what Anshuman also said that, they need senior people, for the value addition or the knowledge, sharing and all these things. So I'm just wondering if for such type of organization where people tends to stay on a little bit longer, how can we inculcate the best practices or remain competitive vis-a-vis the competitors, or how do we ensure that cutting edge competition within the organization? Uh, yeah.
Anshuman, you want to go first?
I I won't know. I'm not to, uh, but see, I mean, Bhaskar, I noticed that maybe there is a slight discomfort with people who want to spend longer time in a company. For a HR person, that would be a delight, right? So, but the way I have seen companies handle this, and at least in my kind of line, the kind of function that I am in, we try and move people around quite a bit. So my general yardstick is 3 years. 3 years in the same role, I start looking for something else. So I 2.5 years, I start looking for something else for the person, and then move. So I'll give you an example. Somebody who's been looking at quality certifications, I'll put them in charge of the process management part. If they have been looking at process management, I will look at process improvement for them, and that keeps them quite engaged. And also their experience in another space brings more value to this new space. Of course, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it doesn't, you know, work out. But I think 7, 8 out of 10 it does work out. So that's the only limited response I can share with you, Bhaskar. That I would love if people want to work with the company for longer, but I start planning for role rotation starting at 2 years, and around 2.5, closer to 3 years, I start moving them.
Yeah,
Like
I'll
Anshuman,
just, yeah, Bhaskar, go
yes,
ahead.
yeah, no, so please go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that I'll add to what Anshuman was saying. Um, I'm actually positively surprised that a lot of people want to stay on in the organization for a long time. I'm sure we all love it. The question really is about, how we develop them, and at the same time bring in new technology, new skills, and let's say new ways of working and thinking from outside. So I think, Bhaskar, organizations are not static. They keep changing. So sometimes they're growing, sometimes they're degrowing in one part of the organization. Sometimes there's a merger or an acquisition, and sometimes the organization grows organically as well. So I think there's enough space for people who might want to come in from outside and bring some new skills or bring in some new technology. It keeps happening. You see this happening at your current organization as well. And also, the people who are with us, like Anshuman mentioned, for longer periods of time, it's good to have people, upskill themselves, move around, get some new experiences, and that adds to the whole ways of working and different ways of thinking as well. So I think a combination of both is very much possible. Um, Fact is, organizations are not static because they keep growing, they keep changing. There is enough opportunity to do both of this.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Great. I
Thank you, Vas.
Bhaskar, your question was answered by Anshuman and Ravi.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thanks.
Thank you, Bhaskar, for your time and joining in. Well, moving on, we have Nimrita. Nimrita, yes, Nimrita, you are on stage. You can unmute yourself and ask the question. Nimrita, can you hear me? Am I
Yeah, I
audible?
just had to unmute myself. Sorry. Yeah, good to hear finally people that I follow on LinkedIn. Quick question for both of you actually is, when we, especially when it comes to nurturing talent, there is, addition to, of course, job experiences, which is a fairly big part of nurturing talent internally. But at times you may have to make investments, right? It could be a transfer, it could be a specific training, a particular assignment for which the current, there might be objections to releasing the person from a current role. How do you overcome those kind of challenges?
Thanks, Nimrita, for that. And I'll try and take that one. It's a practical challenge. It's actually called hoarding talent. Everyone loves to hoard talent. I do as well, to be honest. The question really is, what is the value that it is bringing me, right? So if I let my talent go and do something else in some other function, and that's actually helping the organization and helping me also in many ways. I think this is the the base point, if I may put it that way. How do we do this practically? I think many organizations have something called a NPS score or a Net Promoter Score for the manager. So you tend to have a much better NPS score if you are the one who's actually promoting and moving people from your function to other functions, or taking in people sometimes from other functions as well. So you create that kind of structure, and you create that kind of sort of an award or a reward for doing something like this. Encourage managers to do that, and you tend to overcome some of these issues. But I will still say that these are programs which help you get over this problem. The real issue is the culture in the organization. Now, if the culture in the organization is not about developing people, not about promoting them, but actually keeping them only for your own function, then I think this is likely not to be solved by any structure or any program. So I think it really comes or flows from the top. You know, I would love to have a managing director who actually looks at, what's happening in terms of movement of people. Do we actually review this, let's say, every few months? In a talent review, do we look at how many people have moved from which function to which function? Do we hold those managers accountable? And then that culture starts in terms of sharing resources, ensuring that we support people's career paths, even if they've come from some other function to me, and then they are supposed to move somewhere else as part of their career planning. And I think this whole culture piece, if it falls in Namrata, then I think putting in some of these structures like in NPS, etc., will really help move talent all across. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that's a good one. Thank you.
Anshuman, would you like to add something to this?
No, this is a highly specialized area, and I may end up saying something completely stupid. So I know when to keep my mouth shut, man. So,
Thank you so much, Nimrita, for your question and for your time to tune in today. Really appreciate it.
Ankit, are you there? Did
Yes,
I?
yes,
Yeah,
Anshuman.
no, no.
Anurag, Dr. Anurag has raised his hand, and I'm trying to, bring him on stage, but I'm not able to. But let me try once again. No problem. I'll do it again. Anurag, if you can, put your hand down and then raise it again, so probably I'll be able to. Okay, Nirupama, you are on stage. You can unmute yourself and
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Ankit and Anshuman and Ravi. Nice to be able to ask you your perspectives on this. So I just wanted to understand, in your, careers and in your throughout your journeys, have you seen any patterns in terms of certain functions are more amenable to, nurture, and certain others uh, more amenable to acquire? Is that a trend? I mean, is there a way to identify?
Uh, I'll take a shot. So again, like I said in the beginning, Nirupma, I hate to say that any function is different, including mine. So at the core level, everybody is similar. There can be slight nuances, and one area where some functions, particularly which have slightly the need for roles to be or people to be slightly more experienced, which is starting levels could be mid and senior only. uh,
Right.
you know HR is one example. If you leave out HR ops, much of HR needs some gravitas and experience to be able to handle that. uh, my function, definitely most people tend to be manager and above, 10-year experience, 12, 15 also in some places. And I would give a arm and a leg if I find somebody with 25, 30-year experience. So in my kind of function, we value that.
Mhm.
So definitely in our kind of function, nurture is extremely, extremely important. It is very, very difficult to acquire that knowledge and skill set, eh, combined with the context of the particular organization. So the yes, the answer in my career, whatever I have seen, some functions particularly where I would say they are slightly more knowledge oriented, or uh, are starting at mid career roles, or maybe let's say 10-year experience plus. They definitely need more nurturing, because there is no replacement strategy, right? Very, very difficult to put a replacement strategy, because it may take 6 months or a year. So I'm actually, I hope there is nobody from my team on this call, but for all my key roles, I'm actually on the lookout all the time, in the company, outside the company, because if that person decides to move on,
Right.
I it will take me 6 months to find a similar, forget similar, even in the same range person. So Yes, the answer is yes. And I gave you the characteristic to identify such roles. And the opposite would be, maybe more multi-layer organizations like a sales or a operations, where you can always, not always, but most of the time, move vertically. So if people move on, there is a half baked, if not fully ready, person available to take the role. And then you can work on that person and say, okay, I will now help you. Or similar organizations will have, so you can acquire, right? So if there is a project manager for a let's say shipping project or something, you can acquire. There will be other companies with similar roles you can acquire, with some cost, or maybe at sometimes even at a discount. So that would be my response, Nirupama. But this is an amateur response. Let's hear the professional.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And in fact, just one quick observation. Actually, you kind of turned my understanding right around its head, because I was thinking that a skill which can be acquired would be, the one which would kind of be. How do I say, there'll be much more retention effort from the current organization. But you told me the exact opposite, so that's quite eye opening, and thanks for that.
So give some credit to my hair. Um,
Yeah,
thanks,
so
Nirupama.
no,
Thanks.
Anshuman, I think Anshuman has, pointed us all in the right direction. I'd just like to add a little bit to that. It's also, Nirupama, about the kind of manager that you might have heading that role, right? Assuming that that's the person who loves to bring in talent and promote talent from within, etc. So I would also say that we have all kinds in all organizations. It also largely depends on how the manager has had experiences as a talent himself or herself, how he or she has been given experiences in different parts of the organization. Has his manager or her manager been open to moving and letting go of talent? If that's the case, then that manager, whenever that person takes on a role for the entire team, will be far more open to doing this, because they have experienced it firsthand and they've seen the benefits of doing this firsthand. So I would also put a lot of effort on what the manager thinks.
Understood. So what I'm taking away from you is that it's more culture driven.
Yes, also, in addition to what Anshuman was saying, it's the functional, of course, and some functions cannot operate that way, or maybe a size of a function. If it's just a three-member organization, then extremely difficult for someone to do that. But yes, in addition to that, it's also the culture that the manager has imbibed over the years.
Understood. So thank you so much, Anshuman and Ravi. I mean,
Thank
both
you.
of these responses were really very different from my own patterns of thought. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks for
Thank you.
being open to learning, Nirupama. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nirupama, for your question, and as Anshuman said, openness for learning. And it was really insightful question. And thank you for your time and you joined.
Thank you.
We'll take one more question from audience. Shiv Prasad. Okay, you're on stage, Shiv. You can unmute yourself and you can ask the question.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, to add to Nirupama's question, actually, I have a question. This, especially, I think Ravi may be able to, from his experience earlier when he was with Roche, that what happens when there are flat organizations, over there, would it be more of acquiring or nurturing when there are vacancies?
So, Mr. Shivrasad, pleasure to see you on this platform, and great to see you after a number of years. So, um, yeah, I think flat organizations, of course, pose that challenge. But I think it just takes a little longer with flat organizations as compared to organizations which possibly have multiple layers. So it's a little easier over there. But I would still go so far as to say that if we are ready to take a risk, with a flat organization, a flat structure, and let go a couple of people, so that in the end the overall organization benefits. I think it's worth the risk. So maybe we do it in a in a a smaller span of control. We do it over 2 years, If it's a larger span of control, then of course I have the flexibility to do it every 6 months, etc. So I would largely look at it from that point of view, Mr. Shepard.
Okay, thanks. Thanks,
Thank
Ravi.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiv, for your question. And it's already 8:23. I will take Sakshi. One last question from audience. Sakshi, you are here.
Yeah, thank you, Ankit sir. Hello, Anshuman sir. Hello, Ravi sir. So I'll quickly ask my question. And it's basically, while I was working in e-growth business consulting, I actually, just matlab, observe that there are two kinds of target or two types of audiences. One is the people, the youngsters who are don't have money, but they're willingly excited to nudge learn the talent. And on the other hand, there are people, the business owners and all, who really don't want to learn it, but they are more into ki hame karke de do, more of that sense. They don't want to learn it. So how can we find a midway where we can as those founders or the big peoples to actually invest in the nurturing of their employees, or they invest there in the nurturing.
So, Sakshi, if your question is that how do we help founders or startup people or smaller company leaders to invest in nurturing, it is extremely difficult. I would not even, if I were in HR, I would not try that, because when a company is growing at a rapid pace, and there is something called maturity continuum, right? So you can apply it to any situation. You say at what stage what process should be applied. At least in quality management, which is my field, I do apply. I look at what maturity level the organization is, and therefore what will work, right? If the organization is highly mature, I am not bringing in a kaizen practice. I will bring in a slightly more deeper in, because there is a good chance that people will accept and understand it. And if the organization is all chaotic, fire every day, then kaizen will work beautifully. So in your example that you shared, I would, in these kind of companies are extremely acquisition driven. So whatever is working, not working, they are looking at, they will acquire a vendor, they will acquire employee, they will do. So there, this conversation around nurture is very very difficult to have. And some people, some founders and some leaders have it inherently and organically, maybe, so they will do it. But I would not be risking my job if I was in HR in giving a lecture on acquisition, acquire versus nurture to a startup founder who's on a high growth trajectory, because is the wrong advice at that point. Because I mean, the advice is right, but the timing is wrong. So they will not take it. They will want to acquire any skill that they need at any price that they can get, because the stakes are just too high. So that's not the time to, I mean, patient is in the hospital. You don't go and advise that you should wake up at 5 a.m., put on your running shoes, go for a run, go for a jog, don't eat oily food. All that has already happened, right? So the patient is already in ICU, kind of thing. So that I gave a slightly stark analogy, but I hope you get my point.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a lovely answer, Anshuman. I mean, this is great. I hope, Sakshi, that helps you.
yeah, absolutely, Anshuman. So thank you so much, and Ravi. So
Thank you.
Thank you, Sakshi, for your time and your question. Well, it's we are almost at the end, but before going, Anshuman and Ravi, I have one last question, because we all are at mid-career, right? So majorly people are here who are mid-career, and Anshuman, you give a lot of good advices to the people who want to excel in their career. So any quick pro tips that you both want to give for people to improve their skill set and move ahead in their career? So that will be really great. I will also take note of those things and move ahead in my career as well.
Ravi, you want to go first, because I can learn from what you tell me.
No, no, Anshuman, you are the expert. It's actually written in your profile. So
So
I think you go first. Yeah.
people who need an identity need a nameplate, right? So I need to tell people I am good at this. You don't have to tell anybody, right? So
No, no, please go ahead, Anshuman. I'll
So
follow.
okay, I will take a shot. So Ankit, I think I anybody who has been following my content for some time, I am a firm believer of shine in your current role uh, to either retain or grow, right? So retain in times of crisis and grow in times of abundance. So what is shine? Very quickly, there's not enough time today to elaborate, but S is for social skills, so develop social skills. H is for hard work, and hard work this last 2 weeks has been in, you know, in all over social media because of the 70-hour thing. But core topic is hard work, work really really hard. Don't leave it for all the smart work and all this other stuff. Yes, first comes hard work. H is hard work. I is for intellect. Be a problem solver. Don't just identify problems. Also help solve problems. N is numbers. Meet your numbers. If you're in sales, operations, whatever you are in, if you're not meeting numbers, you will not be retained or you will not grow. That's as simple as that. At the end of it, it is life is brutal. There will be need for some numbers achievement, and of course, this varies from function to function. E is for emotions. Be emotionally resilient. I spoke about this earlier. So S is for social. How do you manage the external part of it? E is emotional. How do you manage your own emotions, particularly when things will not go your way, and they will. Corporate life is most of the time not going your way. It is just the law of averages. How life works out. If Ravi and I are in the same, leadership team, there is only one decision to be made. We are at opposite ends of the conversation. One decision will be taken. So I have, if my decision is or my suggestion is not taken, I am the one who has to go home thinking, okay, fine, I'll live to fight tomorrow and wish Ravi best of luck. So shine is what I will remind everybody. And Ravi, before you ask, this is also not patented, but I wish I can.
Oh, beautifully put, Anshuman. I think very easy to remember as well. So thank you for that. And like I said, Anshuman is the expert, so he's the one who can actually help us with this. I'll take a shot. I think it's a lot got to do with the passion that one has. So I think if I'm passionate about what I'm doing, it doesn't look like a job to me, right? So I would always recommend Ankit that. We go in the direction of where our passions take us. And if I can convert my passion to a role or a job or an earning potential, then I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And that's the only advice I have for today.
Wow. So even I would like to summarize, as you said, Ravi, passion is something which is very important. One has passion, they can obviously guide themselves and navigate through life and career. And the analogy given by Anshuman, Shine has, I mean, the way he has broken down Shine. So I think if, as you said, passion is important, it's a seed. And then again, if you improve your social skills, how do hard work, if you have the intellect, and as numbers and emotions are at the right place, so obviously we all can grow. Thank you so much, Ravi and Anshuman, for this insightful answer and valuable inputs that you have given. Few things were out of, they were bouncing for me, but then again, I learned a lot of things from your experience and your area of expertise. So that is very enriching for me. And obviously, what I have learned from this event or this podcast is I'm going to definitely, implement these strategies which you guys have mentioned, not to grow but excel in my career. And I'm very grateful for the audience. There were people, who stayed till the last, and very engaging questions and lovely questions you all came up with, and I really loved our time. So, Anshuman and Ravi, any last words that you want to add, and then we will close this.
No, thank you very much, Ankit, and thanks to the audience for being a great audience, and a very special thanks to Anshuman. I think he has enlightened us a lot with whatever he has shared with us. Easy to remember ideas and concepts. Love that, Anshuman. Thank you very much, and all the best, Ankit, and the team.
Thank
Thanks, Ravi. Pleasure totally sharing stage with a accomplished professional like you. And Ankit, thanks for bringing us together. I found a new, I would say, person I can look up to now today in Ravi. So thank you very much. And to all the audience who stayed till the end, thanks a lot. You make us.
Pleasure, Anshuman, hosting you, and pleasure hosting you, Ravi, too. Thank you, guys. The journey of finding the right balance between nurturing and acquiring talent is indeed a continuous one. And discussion like these, they propel us to, forward in our journey. So we look forward to hosting more enlightening conversation. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, this is your host, Ankit, signing off. Thank you so much once again, everyone, for joining in and giving your valuable time. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Anshuman and Ravi.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye. Good night.